What is up, everybody? It's your boy Rogue here. So this video is a little more of a serious topic for me personally because I've been playing this game for 20 plus years, and I'm kind of getting sick of Konami and their goofy policies. Now, this video is in response to Konami updating their new tournament policies for competitive play, and essentially the biggest issues I'm seeing within the community is the misgender of other players intentionally. They did preference intentionally on the website, and the arrest record, criminal record issues as well. And I'm just looking through the communities, and no one outside of the misgendered part, no one's really talking about the criminal part, which is the part I want to speak on because I think that's really unfair. Now, before you guys click off the video, dislike, or leave some hate comments, I'm going to preface this. I have nothing against anybody of any gender, race, ethnicity. I don't care if you're trans. I don't care how you are. As long as you play Yu-Gi-Oh, you're cool with me. I'm always very respectful of the events, the trans people, non-trans people. So I really don't care about what people do behind closed doors. When it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh, we play Yu-Gi-Oh, we have our fun, and we ended at that. So, Yu-Gi-Oh is becoming a shit show in my opinion. Straight up. The game has a lot of issues, and it's just slowly getting worse. So I'm just gonna start with the policies. That's probably why most of the people click the video, and I guess you guys will stay for the rest of the stuff I'm gonna rant about right now. So let's target the ugly elephant in the room, the misgendering and how that can be abused. Essentially, Konami is pretty much saying that if you intentionally, call somebody who represent a certain pronoun, the wrong pronoun, they can essentially ban you for it. Now, that's good. I'm all for people having proper respect. But the issue is that can be really abused. And that's a problem because it hasn't happened yet. And it hasn't happened. And it might not happen for a while. But what's going to happen when we have a very prominent player who decides to change their gender roles, for example, and want to take abuse to this issue? What happens when somebody who is of that other pronoun, for example, who do want to live an alternative lifestyle, decides to like play against somebody who considers himself a straight male, and they lose to that person, and they just get upset and say, hey, that person was insulting me, they didn't respect my pronouns, I want him out of here. By your tournament policy, I want him out of here. That could become a big issue for our future. I personally feel like Konami definitely needs to come out with like a reference point and breakdown of each of these new policies to let players know what they really mean by each policy, because it's left so vague, it's abusable by their tournament policies. And tournament organizers who are just, literally, let's be real, most of these people, some of the people, they just own card shops, they don't even play card games. And the ones that do play card games, they don't even play Yu-Gi-Oh! So a lot of the times they might just follow the policy and it is what it is, just so they won't have to deal with the issue. Like, how many times have you guys been to a store or a restaurant where employees didn't follow policy? They just did what's best for the company so that things don't blow up on social media. We're in a new era. This ain't the 90s where you can leave things vague and someone's accusations don't just get blown out of proportion. That happens a lot. Now, I personally feel like the community is in a good spot where we won't have to deal with it. However, this needs to definitely be broken down by Konami. The second thing I want to talk about, this is my big issue that triggered me: arrest records and banning criminals. Now, I'm not a criminal. I have a clean arrest record. I dare somebody to try to find something on me. Your boy Rogue, never been arrested, never been to jail, none of that, right? But I personally know a lot of players who have records, former gang members, like people who used to do some real street stuff. So Yu-Gi-Oh has changed their life around for the better. And my opinion is, what happens when those players go to an event, God forbid somebody assumes that that person has a record based on their race or ethnicity, and let's say they're correct. What happens, let's say, for example, Joe Blow go to an event, Joe Blow wins that event. Now, Ryan Savage or whatever, right? That's just a name I made up right now. That's the first thing that came to my mind. Let's say some guy named Ryan Savage gets mad and reports Joe Blow because they dug into that person's history and say, hey, Konami, do you know that this dude back in 2005 used to gangbang and was locked up in his arrest and has a long arrest history? Like, when does Konami give that much power to players because I guarantee you, when certain people start winning events or topping events, there's going to be people that hate on them. And there will be players who will research YCS winners just to dig into their past to bring it to light. And I personally do not like this because we're playing a freaking card game. I'm not even going to call it a children's card game because it's not. We are playing a card game for fun. It's a hobby. Why do people's business need to be in these streets? Now, I read in Zodiac Duelist, a lot of people are saying that they're sure that Konami means arrested at an event and or, arrested, outside an event that makes like maybe public news. But I would argue they left it vague. So literally, for example, Billy Brake. I don't know that dude's history, but let's say Billy Brake, or let's just say freaking whoever just won, let's say Joshua Smith or somebody, right? They won a recent event. And someone digs up their past and see that they were arrested for fighting when they were in their early 20s. Are you seriously gonna ban them? Like, Konami is obviously a very left-leaning company. I'm not trying to bang politics in the Yu-Gi-Oh, but if you look at companies like Disney, DC, and what they're dealing with in the movie industry as far as low attendance records, people not really watching the shows like She-Hulk, I definitely predict that stuff slowly start creeping into Yu-Gi-Oh. Yu-Gi-Oh is an amazing, addicting card game, right? That's the reason why we all still play. It has tons of nostalgia. It came out in an era where people really didn't know about card games in America like that, and it capitalized on that. And players like myself got addicted at the young age of 12 years old. And I have a real love for the Yu-Gi-Oh card game. It changed my life for the better. It kept me from potentially going down bad paths, amongst other things. So I just really feel for this arrest thing because it's kind of like, why is that anyone's business that somebody can potentially hate on a player who does well, bring up their past, and now the entire community knows their business? That's complete nonsense. Now, they did bring up other things like, if that person's like a sex offender, that's a slippery slope too. Now, before you guys like, oh my God, he's trying to protect sex. No, not at all. Did you guys know, for you guys that do know the law, sometimes people can become a sex offender by multiple different ways. Like, there's people who have, let's say, be honest, if you're a young adult who has girlfriends or boyfriends or whatever you guys sleep with, right? People get frisky in public. Sometimes you can get arrested in public for being frisky with your girl, and you guys can gotta put yourself on a sex offender registry because they could say, hey, you shouldn't have been having sex in public, so this is what's gonna happen. That happens to people. Also, there's people who take a leak. I'm a guy. Sometimes we want to go to the alley and take a leak. God forbid a cop's pull. Now, it's rare, but a cop could literally pull you over and say, hey, you're peeing in public. I'm going to put you on a sex offender. You're peeing in public. So, like I said, Konami specifically needs to break this down because like I said, it ain't me, so I ain't worried about it, but I really feel for the players who might have some petty stuff on their account and their record, who now they can't even play their hobby, who they're addicted to literally by a gambling company, Konami, which is a whole nother issue that goes into moral and ethical reasons that can really make people go a little insane. If you guys catch my drift, like, you can't just get somebody addicted to something and then tell them they can't do it based on their record. Now, this is the worst case scenario, but I know how a lot of things are going in social media nowadays, and people will abuse this for their advantage. Like, do you know how petty some Yu-Gi-Oh players could be? Players will literally cheat at locals, like hard at locals. So imagine at a YCS where the tension's on the line and somebody finds out that Joe Blow was a gang member, and they, even though they don't gang bang them, when they change their life around because of Yu-Gi-Oh, that person want to trick on Joe Blow. And now Joe Blow can't play Yu-Gi-Oh, which is literally the main thing keeping him off the streets. That can really ruin people's lives, which is why I'm really concerned about that part. Like I said, misgendering part is important too. That could be abused. But the arrest part is kind of like digging too deep into people's business. Like what is Konami? I mean, and the thing is too, why even bring it up when Konami, are they going to start making people do background checks for Yu-Gi-Oh? You got me effed up. I ain't gonna lie, bro. If Yu-Gi-Oh ever starts to like say, hey, you guys gotta do a background check to play in competitive tournaments, I'm probably done with Yu-Gi-Oh. I'll just be real. I'll be like, you know what? I'm retiring. The game's getting too goofy. Catch me at the Disney card game, which I'm having big hopes for. or a Bandai card game like Battle Spirits or Digimon, because this is getting ridiculous. Now, another reason why Yu-Gi-Oh is becoming a shit show. C19 policies. Bruh. You know what? No matter what side of the C19 that you're on as far as political, whether if you believe in it or not, it's 2023. We're going to March. Why in the heck are we still going to regionals and YCS with mask on? Why in the heck do we still have to require a vaccine to play in YCS national tournaments when no other country has to do it? Europe doesn't have to do it. Japan doesn't have to do it. But American Yu-Gi-Oh players got to do it. Why? I personally know why. I got a theory on that. I've been told through the grapevine some things. I'm not going to say it on camera, but that's bull. That is complete bull. So now we have policies in place that make us Yu-Gi-Oh players uncomfortable to play inside events. Now, a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh players might say, oh, get mad, you know, whatever, good. My thing is this, man. No matter how you feel about C19, if you're that concerned, you wear a mask. If you're that concerned, you get vaccinated. But there are a lot of players who are not vaccinated who refuse to go to events because of these policies. And there are also a lot of players who are vaccinated who feel like it's freaking ridiculous. One of my buddies, Charles, who you guys seen on the channel, one of the main reasons why he doesn't even want to play Yu-Gi-Oh anymore and he plays Digimon is because while he did enjoy his experience at his first regionals, even though he's vaxxed, he felt it was really ridiculous that we still had to wear a mask when literally the state of Illinois doesn't require it at all. And almost, I think no state in the United States require it at all outside of you potentially having to go to like an elderly home. They may require it, which is, I understand it's the elderly. But bruh, so you mean to tell me I can go to the bar, go to the club, breathe in all this toxic air that Konami's scared of, right? But to play Yu-Gi-Oh, you got to put a mask on. I've been to nationals. I've been to regionals. And guess what? You know what players do? They take their mask down. They don't care. Now, they did add some additional policies saying players will get banned potentially or infractions for doing so. But I've seen judges do it. So it's kind of like, at what point are players going to say, that's enough? We've had enough. If you guys continue these policies, we're just not going to show up to tournaments. Now, I know a lot of you guys won't do that because you guys are sheep. Let's be real. But like I said, at this point, I got it in the beginning because things was different. The world was kind of like, we don't know what's going on. I get it. But they're literally treating this whole thing like it's the zombie apocalypse, bro. And it's really insulting to us Yu-Gi-Oh players when no other card game has to deal with it. That's the most goofiest thing in the world. And I'm very passionate about this topic because it's kind of like, I just want to go back to 2019, man. Where I can just go to an event, be comfortable, have fun, see my friends, make my videos, and go to F home. Not go to an event, show vaccination documents, put a mask on, be ostracized, step out of the convention room where we're playing Yu-Gi-Oh! To go into the hallway and see everybody else walking around without a mask. That's the goofiest thing in the world. But we all do it because we want to play these card games. We're getting out of the C19 era and people just want to get back to normal life, which I understand. But at the same time, we have to say enough is enough. And I think it's a damn shame that no other bigger channel that has hundreds of thousands of subscribers is talking about this. I've only seen me talk about it and my boy V. That's it. Only ones giving Konami pushback on this topic. And that's effing insane to me, bro. Like, how much do these big content creators really care about the game? Really? Let's be real right now. Do y'all really feel like these bigger channels care about the game? Now, I ain't trying to start nothing with nobody, or I ain't trying to attack no bigger channels who have sponsorships, so I understand why they're not doing it. But I'm tired of the little guy having to be the ones to put our foot down. Enough is enough, man. These policies should end because there's a big part of the community who cannot play Yu-Gi-Oh! Because of these goofy policies when states and most of the country is not even like requiring it. And no other part of the card game community, as far as Konami Europe and Japan, is requiring it. But American players, nope, you guys got to do it. Complete BS. Now, another thing I want to talk about. Toxic metas, unbalanced formats, and cash prizing. Because I know this video is probably getting really long. And I have to get to edit it because I got to go to locals later. I like playing Yu-Gi-Oh! There. I have a good local community. Goofy metas. We're in a good meta right now. But with everything I just said before this, with the goofy metas we have, toxic cards, break my border, bus formats, and much, much more. We got to go through all this stuff to play Yu-Gi-Oh! With no cash prizing. Make that make sense. Now I know Kazuka Takahashi, rest in peace to him, stated back in the 90s or the early 2000s he don't want cash in his game. Bruh, it's 2023. If you want the game to stay competitive, you got to have cash eventually. It's a dang shame. You got new card games coming out. Battle Spirits is one of them, even though it's a rehash, but you got new card games coming out offering cash, and people always say it's for the love of the game. Bro, this is not a kid's game. Yu-Gi-Oh! Tell me one kid that you know, match me that donut, because there's always an outlier. That's not an outlier. Tell me a group of kids that you know that plays Yu-Gi-Oh! And got it like that. Every other card game has an easy entry point except Yu-Gi-Oh! The best thing players can do is hop on Master Duel, learn the mechanics, and even then there's still a learning curve after learning the mechanics. It's not an easy game to play. The game really need to be 16 plus if you really be honest with you. Well, 14 plus, but if you really want to be honest, because the game is so complex, it's more complex than games like Magic the Gathering. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is one of the most complex card games in the world. And yet the players get treated like crap in America. We get no cash prizing. And on top of that, we deal with toxic formats. And the only thing keeping us in the game is our nostalgia and the fact that the game is an addicting card game that's made by a gambling company. So, case in point, I made this video because, like I said, I really care about Yu-Gi-Oh! It's been part of my life for 21 years at this point. I'm 33. Oh my God, time flies, man. It's been part of my life for 21 years, probably longer than some of you guys have been alive. I've been in the card game as part of the best formats, and I've been in the card game some of the worst formats. And I'm tired of the TCG here in America getting the short end of the stick. It didn't used to be that way back in the day. And you know, back in the day, even though we didn't have cash prizing, I felt like the prizing was better. We had cool things like the mall tours and things like that. It's something that got players motivated to play. Now all we have fresh out of C19 is stricter policies making a lot of players uncomfortable. Like I said, a lot of channels, bigger channels ain't gonna talk about this because they don't want to lose their sponsorships. A lot of pro players who are really prominent in the community ain't gonna say nothing and it's not because they believe in these policies. They just deal with it because they don't want to deal with Konami's BS. Me, I don't care. Konami's not gonna do anything because I'm not saying anything wrong. I'm not going against their policies. I'm not bashing anybody, and I'm leaving names out of the video. So if something happens to me as far as like I can't show up in an event because of this video, then so be it. I highly doubt Konami goes that route. If it does, in my opinion, it'd be a bad PR move for them because I'm just speaking facts and from an objective opinion on their recent activities in the card game community. So tell me what you guys think about this video, man. Am I right or wrong? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'm gonna leave the floor to you guys. It's your boy Roll Hero, and I'm signing out. Peace.